And so, since we're bringing in Gemini and Mercury, it is Gemini season. Mercury just entered Gemini. Um, and it had that meet up with Pluto very early in the morning, while Pluto went back into Capricorn. Um, so I was wondering if you could share with us, here's like the educational portion of the show, what tarot card corresponds with Gemini?
So the tarot card that corresponds with Gemini in the major arcana is the Lover's card, major arcana 6. So last year, 2022, was a lover's year. We were all having this lover's experience. And we can think about the lover's arcana is basically major arcana 1 to 5, the magician, the high priestess, the empress, the emperor, and the hierophant are kind of like our families of origin, our socialization and conditioning, um, how the overculture informs us, religious and institutional socialization. And the 6, the lovers, is where we begin to identify our own desires, our own preferences. We begin to tune into our attraction to things that maybe we were taught we shouldn't be, or isn't what we're supposed to want. It's a kind of individuation process. And it's also, Gemini is the twins. So this mirroring of ourselves in the world. And so, one way I like to think about the lovers is as our relational interstitial selves. So, we are kind of individual skin bags on the one hand, and at the same time, we are relational beings. Both of those things are true. And something I think about with this arcana and our interstitial selves is, in some ways, I think that the culture that we live in really warps and disrupts our capacity to be in right relationship with everything, ourselves, each other, the land. And so, working with the lover's arcana, working with our relational self, working with relationship at the most available micro level, we are with ourselves 24/7, 365. So, how are we relating to ourselves? What do our relationships feel like? What do we want them to feel like? How are we in relationship with the physical so called objects that we live with every day? Do we recognize that they have a life of their own? And if not, how might we invite a sort of relationality with the material world? And so there's a lot of really juicy generative work that can get done in the realm of the lovers. And, we can look at it in a very sort of narrow heteronormative box, and we can completely just take that box away and see how large and complex and life-giving relationship is and can be.
Mm, wow, that was beautiful. Yeah, that read on the lover's card, and like, well, one of the symbols of Gemini is a boy and girl set of twins. But if we like move away from gender, and we look at, they are twins, but they're not reflecting like the exact, mirror image of each other, or maybe mirror image is the wrong thing to say. But it's it's the synthesis of a masculine energy or a masculine principle and a feminine energy or feminine principle. And then, when we're looking at masculine and feminine and talking about it in this non-gendered way, we're really just talking about positive and negative, yin and yang, innies, outies, um, like what's going out, what's coming in, and how the two things are not opposite or really separate at all. They are part of a whole. And yeah, so much I feel you're right on relationally in our culture. Like, it's like no one wants us to know that. It's like if we see something that is different, that is not me. That is separate from me. Or I can, vilify it or make it a nemesis or something. But
Yes.
yeah.
I love that. And I think that, to think about the way that other people, other beings have pieces of our story and healing, that there's things that we can't see by ourselves. There is no personal liberation. We need each other to really be fully human, to rehumanize ourselves. And so to just see in some ways, to ask the question, like, what if everything was our twin? What if, everything had some, and not some piece that we need to like extract, but just some facet of life or ourselves that we can't otherwise see?
Mm, yeah, that's really powerful. Um, yeah, and then there's this whole, I don't want to get too in the weeds here, but there's this whole question I've been thinking a lot about this week for some reason. It's, is there a self? Like, is there a true sovereign self that exists in isolation from anything else? And I've been thinking, no, I think we all have a self, but it doesn't reside in my, you know, closed off meat sack. It's my self is activated by whatever it's in relationship to. And that's
Mm,
something I've been toying around with in my head.
I love that whole inquiry. That we're alone is like the greatest lie we've ever been told, and it makes me think of Sophie Strand's work, about how many beings are literally inside our body, that we're never alone, and that the idea that we could isolate any part of ourselves as some single essential self is kind of, you know, and yet the culture really assures us that that is the case, that we are separate beings.
Whew, yeah. But yeah, I think Sophie Strand somehow either just I she's been on the show before, and also I look at her social media, and it always like sets off like a thought that I become obsessed with for like the week that just
Yeah.
like goes
Yeah.
on and on and on. And speaking of the week, and I guess I think you have your cards there with you. Um, would you like to pull a card for us to work with for this week of June 11th?
Sure. I'm just going to like randomly cut my deck and hold up what comes out. So here we have the Daughter of Pentacles, or in other decks, we would call it the Page of Pentacles. And this is I'm looking at the Way Home Tarot deck, one of my faves. And so the Daughter of Pentacles, or the Page of Pentacles, the daughters and pages are the youngsters of the court. So what they lack in kind of finesse or mastery or facility or experience, they make up for in curiosity and enthusiasm and kind of sincerity and eagerness. They're beginners. But they're not beginners at the beginning of the suit. They're not an ace, right? So they come after the 10. So the Daughter of Pentacles is studying the material world, studying, a student of the earth element, a student of resources. So something for the week to maybe think about is to ask ourselves, how are we using our resources? In our culture, we immediately think of money, but time is a resource, beauty is a resource, relationships are a resource, a sense of security, stability, and groundedness are resources. And so, what are we doing with our resources? How are we using them? How do we feel about what we find out when we ask that question? Is there a way that we would like to be using them differently? How so? And so the Daughter of Pentacles really invites us to be students of our resources and to invite a kind of curiosity and trial and error mindset. Being willing to, there's this phrase in Zen, mistakes are learning. So just always learning, observing cause and effect. I like to think of the pages as observers of cause and effect. And so, how can we be students of our resources this week is maybe what I would leave people with.
That's so perfect for, what's going on with Venus right now. Venus is one of the things we look to see. What do we have? What do we have to work with? Um, so our time is coming to a close, and I would love for you to share when your book is coming out, how to get it. I don't know if you're going to be doing any events or like a launch or anything like that.
I'm too much of an introvert to do a launch, but the book is available for order at Cosmic Doghouse Press. And if you order it now, we'll be shipping them at the end of the month. And I'm going to be teaching a workshop over Zoom on Tuesday, June 20th at 5:30 p.m. And that's using tarot to work with the dead. That's a 90-minute Zoom workshop. And then I'm going to be doing in-person tarot circles at Signet's Way in Kingston starting at the end of this month. So on Thursday, June 29th from 6 to 7:30, I'll be at Signet's Way doing my first tarot circle there. And I'll be there on the last Thursday of every month.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah,
I'm gonna try to come to that if
that
I
would be
can.
amazing. I would love to see you there.
And so, okay, and that's an in-person small group, and
Yep.
do you just like bring your own deck?
Bring a deck and like a journal, something to write with. And all of everything I just said is on my website at sheaandthecatskills.com. So you can find everything there. And I want to really thank you for this. Has been such a delicious conversation. It's been great to talk to you about all of these things.
I would like to talk to you some more. I think this is like there are many deeper layers underneath the ones that we just touched upon. Um, but so valuable. Thank you so much, Shay, for joining us. And I just want to let all of you know that all of Shay's information will be in our show notes and in the archives. And you can check out Instagram later when we put all the info about this episode up on social media. And yeah, I think that's going to do it for today. I hope everyone has a great week. Consider your resources. What are you doing with them? Are you holding on too tight? Are you frittering them away? Like, how do you manage them? How do you feel about them? And do they bring you pleasure? Do you enjoy them? Do you ignore them? So many questions to to ask. Another thing to really think about this week. So I will see you next time, same place, same time. Take it easy. Bye bye.